In your situation, when you had to go before court, number one, your divorce was going to be a predetermined outcome. Is that correct? There was no way you could say, wait a minute, I want you to deny the divorce. You could say it, but the judge would never deny the divorce. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
But you did say something that was a little bit interesting that I thought before we started here. You said that in Virginia, they actually have a 1-year waiting period.
Correct.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Because in Texas, we have 60 days.
Okay.
And I think that 60 days absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. It's very abusive. And what happens is that one spouse uses this as a weapon a lot of times against the other spouse. We've got to get this done in 60 days. And if you're married for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're going through a divorce that you don't want, 60 days is one of the most brutal, cruel, and evil things imaginable, especially when they have an attorney who is weaponized against you. But you said you had a year.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the waiting period there in Virginia.
So when one person files a divorce against their spouse, the state of Virginia says that the couple has to live apart for a year. And I think the reasoning behind that is I guess they're hoping that the couple can reconcile during that year period.
Do they provide any help to reconcile the couple?
Not to my knowledge. And see, my wife was getting coached, I guess, by her attorney behind the scenes. I didn't know about it.
Right.
And she was sleeping. All of a sudden, I noticed she was sleeping in one of the kids' rooms that wasn't being occupied. Right. So she was not sleeping in the same bed I was, and then that's when I started to realize something's up here. And I guess they can also say that a couple can live apart in the same house if they're not
sleeping in the same bed.
Correct.
Interesting.
So she was being coached to live separately or in a separate part of the house from me. And I guess that was all added or in that year time span.
Got it. So then you waited a year then, or she had to wait a year to continue the hearing.
Correct.
And when it went before the judge, describe what happened there.
Well, she had an attorney. I didn't have one, but I subpoenaed witnesses to tell the court about some of her behavior and what I determined as her neglecting the care of the children in certain instances. But I didn't hire an attorney. I went and presented. I was very prepared. I went and presented evidence. And actually, the judge, because I presented evidence of how Clarissa, my ex-wife, turned the children against my mother, the children's grandmother. Because Clarissa had left me for 3 days with all of our children. I had no idea where she was. Right. So I called my mom. I said, "Mom, Clarissa's. I don't know where she is. I need you to come help me with the kids so I can go to work." So my mom came in and lived with us. Right. So when the judge heard that how she turned the children against my mother, the judge was like, "Well, I've never heard this before. That's not natural for young children to be against their grandmother." Right. So I thought the judge was going to rule in my favor. She took a 5-minute break, came back and said, "Okay, we're going to act on this right now. I'm giving Miss Harper sole and legal custody of all 4 children, and Mr. Harper, you can have visitation." That's what happened in the first custody hearing.
That is incredible. So what you're describing here is what a lot of people call alienation. There's different terms for it, but it can be parental alienation or alienation of a grandparent. And there are top-notch psychologists, child psychologists and everything who actually say that this is abusive to the children. And it also becomes abusive to the grandparent. I mean, it's child abuse by turning a child away from a grandparent, and it's also elder abuse against the grandparent in many instances. Do you feel that this is what took place there?
I do, and I've seen those studies too, that child alienation is child abuse. I've researched that myself. Yes, I agree 100%.
So, I mean, to not deal into what happened to you here for a moment, how did your mother feel about this? Because I'm assuming from what you've said that she had a very strong relationship with the children, a close relationship prior to that. Is that correct?
Yes, she's very hurt by it, but she stays prayerful.
And then how about with you? Because now you've said it's been over a year since you've seen the children.
Yes, it's been over a year.
And I mean, did they still respond to you as daddy when you do see them? Or, I mean, how? Because a lot of times, you know, they talk about divorce poison. When one person gets a divorce, forces a divorce, and then poisons the kids against another spouse. Have you also experienced that? Or have the kids been pretty much immune to that?
I really don't know because I haven't had enough contact with them. I haven't been able to talk to them. I can't call her. She's blocked my number. So she will not let me speak to the kids whatsoever.